Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this virtual event in the series of the Global Cloud Skills Tour. We're here in the beautiful Microsoft office in Amsterdam. It's actually the first day I'm not working from home since 11 weeks, and I think that counts for a lot of people. My name is Peter Kasten. I'm a program manager at Computrain, and I'm also chairman of the board of LLPA. And with me today are Stephanie Straub and Jeffrey Vermeulen, and they will talk about, and they will introduce themselves later, but they will talk about opportunities in the cloud for you, and give you some great examples of how the cloud is being used by companies. But before we continue, let me do a brief introduction on LLPA, Leading Learning Partners Association. We are a group of 33 training partners worldwide, covering 52 countries from Argentina to Australia, from Iceland to South Africa. We originate from 2009 when a couple of training partners joined together sharing best practices, and in 2013 we decided to formalize this group to make sure that we could work together even better and have more effect. We cover the 14 regions of Microsoft worldwide, and that makes us also the biggest training partner worldwide of Microsoft. LLPA delivers training, certification, and because of the size and the scale that we have worldwide, we can assist you and we can assist vendors in delivering projects worldwide in a standard quality, a good quality, but the same quality everywhere. And we can also provide you with our exam scheduling and reporting services with a reporting on the effect of training that we deliver. So with these services, we provide you actually with some kind of justification of investment. Let's get to where we are here for today, because actually in the digital transformation era, technical intensity is around every corner. We hear people talk about machine learning, artificial intelligence, blockchain every day, and Jeffrey and Stephanie will talk about that later. But talking about technical intensity means that we also need to talk about technical skills, because the themes that we are talking about now are not the regular technology themes that we were talking about in the past decades. So we need new skills with people, and that actually is a big problem nowadays, and that will be addressed in Stephanie and Jeffrey's presentation as well. But not only new skills are needed, and not only tech intensity brings new skills, but tech intensity also brings new opportunities. And you will show a couple of those examples on what you can do with the new technologies in the world. But also here it's very important that the people in your company, that they have the right knowledge, that the right people have the right knowledge, just to make sure that that the business strategy is aligned with the IT. And only if you do that, then you can benefit from the opportunities that tech intensity brings. And if you do that in the right way, you can be the best adapted company in your market, and you can outperform your competition. And many people, many companies know that already. They know that, okay, I know that new technologies will bring me new business. But the funny thing is that only 60% of those companies, they have a clear digital transformation strategy. And even more shocking is that from those 60%, only 3.5% of the employees have the right skills that we need to be able to embrace the new technologies. So that's actually why we thought at LLPA, let's organize a seminar, bring business decision makers in the room and talk with them about, well, how can you skill your people? What do you need to do in the light of the digital transformation? And we decided not only do that on one location, but we even decided to do it on 9 locations at 4 continents. So we started with these events. In January, we had events in Helsinki, Belgrade, Johannesburg, and Milan. And then all of a sudden, in February, the world changed. COVID-19 came across, and we had to change our plans. And everybody had to change the plans in every market. And our members in all the countries that we are present, they had to change their businesses. They had to teach online instead of on-site. But also this Global Cloud Skills Tour had to change. So after the 4 first events, we decided to go virtual. And that's what we're starting today. Today is the kickoff, the first event in a series of 6, where we will be discussing digital transformation and cloud skilling with you. And I'm very happy that we have managed to get a great lineup for the coming 6 weeks. Starting today with Stephanie and Jeffrey talking about cloud opportunities and giving some great examples. And next week, we will be talking about how you can even accelerate your business more if you bring your business to the cloud. The presentation will be by Jussi Roine. Jussi is working for Microsoft Finland, and he will talk from the studio in Finland about this topic and how to accelerate your business. 1 week later, 2 weeks from now, Lurleen Duggan, Chief Learning Officer from Microsoft Western Europe, she will talk about how you can accelerate your skills even more by talking. She will take you on the journey, on the global cloud skills journey, and tell you all about how cloud skilling can help your business, can accelerate your business. The 4th session, in 3 weeks from now, Stephanie will be back with me here again. And she will be talking about the initiatives that Microsoft runs with customers on skilling their employees. And Michael Swoboda will be talking. Michael is board director of LLPA, and he works for ETC in Austria. And he will talk about how LLPA can help scaling or help executing the plans together with Microsoft and you as a customer. But it's not only about skilling, it's also about adoption. How can you bring your company to the cloud if you still need to convince people? And Jan Depping and Herman Keizer, they wrote a book about the 8 cloud principles of adoption, and they will talk about that in the 5th seminar, the 5th webinar. And last but not least, we will talk about customer experiences. Ron Augustus, Customer Success Director, will talk about how customers embraced the technical intensity and he will bring some examples. And there will also be some examples from customers that already are skilling their people to the new technologies. But like I said, first we start with Jeffrey and Stephanie, and I'm very happy that they're here today with me. And they will talk about opportunities in the cloud and what skilling is needed. So please, the floor is yours.
Perfect, thank you. First of all, thank you, Patrick, on behalf of us that we are invited here. We really appreciate it. And it's also great fun to be in the Microsoft office again after months that we couldn't be here. So that was nice, actually, to be here again. We missed the coffee, though, but yeah. Thanks for the introduction and the context of the LLPA. My name is Stephanie. I'm a training program manager in the Worldwide Learning Organization within Microsoft. And through our Worldwide Learning Organization, we focus obviously on skills of our customers or our employees as well. And myself, I'm focusing on our program, Technical Skills for Business, what Patrick was already mentioning. And this program is about Azure skilling. Yes.
Yes, and again, Patrick, thanks for having us in this webinar session. I think it's amazing to be here. Like Stephanie already said, I finally had my regular commute to the office. That felt a bit strange after 3 months of working at home, of course. But nonetheless, it's really nice to be here. My name is Jeffrey Vermeulen, and I have the privilege of leading the Microsoft Azure division within Microsoft here in the Netherlands. And we'll be taking you through some really cool stuff in the next 30 or 40 minutes or so. We've got a couple of topics that we want to cover today. I think first up, we're gonna talk about tech intensity, a topic that our CEO, Satya Nadella, has addressed a couple of times in his public speeches and his blog post. Second up?
Second up are some customer examples and also the importance of skilling.
Yep.
And thirdly, I think we are going to focus on what you can do for your own skilling or learning culture and what we advise you to do as well.
Perfect. Stephanie's going to share some best practices, the things that she's seeing in the field. So that's going to be very exciting as well. Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah. Well, I forgot to mention, if you have any questions for Jeffrey or Stephanie or myself, don't hesitate. Just write the question in the box that's available for it, and we'll try to cover it during the presentation or maybe after the presentation, depending on the question. But don't hesitate. That's why I have this laptop on my.
We were already wondering why do you have your laptop in front of you, but that's it. So do post your questions, comments in the chat box, right? And then Patrick will be able to address those or ask those, and we will be able to address those with the three of us. So that's going to be all good.
Great.
Let's get it rolling. So,
all good.
Do you want me to start, Stephanie? I think let's before we talk about and before we underline the importance of skilling, I think it's always good to start off with a couple of customer examples, right? So why is this important? I think Patrick already mentioned, right? It starts with you and your company objectives. And I like how Satya Nadella was already referring to our CEO defines tech intensity. It's not just about customers or organizations adopting our technology. It's about embracing technology, the full scope of technology, and basically jump-starting your own digital transformation as a consequence. I love the examples that we're showing here on the slide. Some of you might recognize a few Dutch examples. That's, of course, those are the cases that we would like to talk about here in Amsterdam. I like the case of Amperman, for example. There's another one of Van Oort that you will also find on our Microsoft websites. But for now, let's focus on two specific examples. The first one that I would like to point out is the one of BAM, the Netherlands. And as you might know or might not know, BAM, the Netherlands, actually is responsible for the maintenance of our asphalt concrete roads in the Netherlands. And as you can imagine, right, if a asphalt concrete road has a pothole or any other type of damage, that imposes a real significant risk to the people using those asphalt roads. Motorcyclists, trucks, cars maybe. And BAM has the responsibility to basically maintain those and inspect those roads and make sure that any of those potholes are in the best case avoided and otherwise repaired as soon as possible. Now, they used to do a lot of manual inspection of those roads, which also used to be a very labor-intense undertaking, as you can imagine. Mm-hmm. But a few years ago, they turned to a Microsoft partner. In this case, it was Orange Next specifically. And what they asked Orange Next is, hey, how can we do this in a speedier, more accurate way? So the Microsoft partner and the customer basically sat together and developed a new solution. They equipped cars with 360 degrees cameras, and they're basically just sending all of the footage from those 360 angle cameras to our cloud. They're basically collecting all of that data, and they have algorithms, cognitive services, inspect all of the videos, the films that they collect. They're training those models in order to have them identify such damages on the road as quickly as possible, maybe quicker than what they would normally do if they would have to inspect them all themselves. So a pretty cool example, and I like the fact that this is a I would say a real example of tech intensity, in the sense that they're not just considering this solution alone, but they're also thinking, hey, we've changed our product, our business model, so you will. How can we offer this solution that we have developed for the inspection and maintenance of asphalt concrete roads in the Netherlands? How can we resell it to other countries perhaps? Or can we use the same solution in order to inspect different kind of objects? You can imagine that the same type of technology, if you train the model well, would also work for trees, for example, for any garbage that you will find next to the road. But it could also be used to inspect railways, for example.
Yeah, that is maybe an interesting transition. Like especially now, given the COVID-19 pandemic, the impact what the Dutch railways has currently. But I'm very curious what they are doing with the technology.
Yeah, and that's exactly the second example that I wanted to address. It's really interesting and even more relevant, like you're saying, in these COVID-19 times, right? That the NS, or the Dutch railroads, for our international viewers maybe, they have developed with Microsoft what they call a seat planner app. And also here, like how they basically turned to Microsoft a couple of years ago and said, hey, we want to make some real progress. We want to use your technology to basically improve and enhance our customer, you travelers, their experience. So what they did, like I said, they developed what they call a seat planner app, and they're basically gathering information from a variety of data sources, and are giving travelers advice on the occupancy rates of train cars, and they're basically advising travelers where to stand on the train's platform, so you can enter or board the train car that has a lower occupancy than any of the other train cars has. And well, like I said, it's more relevant now than ever, because now we're kind of expected to keep as much distance as possible. So this was developed pre-COVID-19 times, but it'll turn out to be even more useful in these times of crisis.
I think it is, because now in the Dutch railways, in the trains, they have marked where you can sit or not. So the occupancy rates should be lower, because there are not so many people who can jump in the train. So
exactly.
It's more relevant than ever.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
So I think that's another wonderful example. If you can progress the slide there, I love the fact that the NS in this case is basically using what we call the intelligent edge to generate a lot of information, and is collecting, analyzing, and crunching all that data that comes from a variety of sources on our what we call the intelligent cloud platform. So basically what they're doing, they're taking live data from passenger movements, basically your interaction with the NS app, right? They're taking carbon dioxide measurements from the sensors that they have installed in the train cars, but they also take load distribution information from the trains, and as a fourth source of data, they're also collecting online media, of course, and then just to get to that one view of what the occupancy rate per train car will be, and basically to optimize the traveler's experience. So on the intelligent edge, they have all these data generating people and devices, and they're basically using Microsoft Azure to analyze, crunch the data as they go.
That's interesting to see, if you see this whole circle, like all of those varieties of data sources are connected, and through that they work on the other solutions.
Definitely, yeah. So of course, this is not the only Microsoft brings a lot of cloud platforms to market. So if you're not familiar with them, I think it might be a good idea at this stage just to point them out real quickly, because in the end, I would say the real strength of Microsoft is basically the interconnectedness of everything that we bring to market, right? Love to point out all the good stuff that we bring to market in Microsoft 365, with Office 365, with Windows, with EMS, of course. Well, we've seen a massive spike in Teams usage over the last few months or so, of course, because of those COVID-19 times. I like all the stuff that we bring to market in our business applications portfolio with Dynamics 365 and the recent addition with Power Platform. If you don't know Power Platform yet, it consists of Power BI. I think most of you are familiar with it.
The dashboards,
I'm sorry?
The dashboards.
The dashboards, indeed. Power Automate, and of course, thirdly, Power Apps to basically enable you as citizen developers to build applications yourself. And then last but not least, talk about Azure, right? I think Azure, if you could emphasize a little bit, is basically Microsoft's cloud computing platform that enables you builders to build, host, and maintain your applications, right? Basically just to bring your wild and revolutionary business ideas to life. It doesn't just offer basic infra layer compute, storage and networking technology that you will also be able to find in your own data center, but on top of that, it offers a range of value-added services. I think we're talking 200 plus services at the moment, and like I said, apart from basic compute, storage and networking, we're basically adding web and mobile technology. We're adding some of the capabilities that I just referenced for AI, for machine learning, and of course for Internet of Things. There's a bunch of stuff that we bring to market within our Azure platform right now. And so if you haven't had a look at it recently, I would definitely encourage everyone to start exploring it today.
Yeah, and a good part is that you can start very small, like with the one service which you can scale down or stop when you will not use it again. And in that sense, you don't pay for it as well. So you only pay for what you use. And that is the great fun actually from Microsoft Azure. It's so scalable that when you need the demand, you can scale up. And maybe in times like this, you might need to scale down. So in terms of cost effectiveness and optimization, that's an interesting approach as well. So talking a bit about costs, Jeff, and going back to the last slide, right? If you see the overview of the cloud platform or what we have as a Microsoft to offer, what do you see in terms of developments given the COVID-19 pandemic? Because IT spend was there already, organizations invested already a lot in those services. Do you see any developments recently or currently?
Definitely. I think, like I just mentioned, right, we've seen a massive spike in our Teams usage, and I think over the last few weeks or months or so, we've been really busy supporting as many Dutch customers here from the Netherlands in their Teams deployments, so you will. I think if we look at the total IT spend, then I just like to reference some bigger research firms here, right? For example, Gartner is currently projecting a decrease of global IT spend of minus 8% for 2020 in comparison to last year. So that's definitely
quite somewhat.
That's definitely a change. And actually, in my 12 or so career at Microsoft, I've never seen a Gartner projection that was actually showing a decrease in global IT spend over the last year. Nonetheless, they're also saying, right, we will see the demand for remote working technology surge. It will continue to surge, and of course, you CIOs maybe or other decision makers will try and find ways to basically optimize for costs, to realize cost savings. So that's definitely gonna mean something to us, but also to your business. I think what Gartner is also referencing, and I do see that from the conversations that I have day in, day out. But of course, it's still early days, right? So it's difficult to say that some of our customers are also putting some of those really strategic transformational projects on hold a little bit, right? I'm not saying that they're canceling out those, but they're putting them on hold and basically waiting for what's going to happen outside of their organizations, right? Because it's uncertain times these days. Wow, what a great time to invest in skilling, right?
I was just saying that.
I saw you look at me, I think, hey.
Now, it is a great time. You have to, well, now you can invest in your knowledge, and then when times get better, your people are up to date, or your people are up to date on the new technologies, and I think that would be great. And there's many opportunities now to skill, like MS Learn or the Skills Academy of LLPA, or all kinds of virtual training, because that's what we're doing now. All of us are doing that now: virtual training, online training, or even the combination of virtual and online training. The real blended by default, as I tend to say it, blended by default training. Prepare yourself whenever you have the time for it, and engage with a trainer on a moment that you feel the need for it.
Yep.
And now it's the time for that.
That is, I would say so. And I think the COVID pandemic also accelerated some of those work streams already, right? As we mentioned already with Teams and Office 365, and maybe that means that there is need for skilling, right? If the whole organization is going to work with Teams from now on, that might be that everybody needs some more skills in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. I like
Teams.
that one example, right? Because we've seen a lot of Teams environments being deployed right now. But the question probably also is, right? Do you have the right capabilities in-house, or are you buying the right capabilities to basically maintain that Teams environment and make sure that everything that you are doing within Teams is kept safe? But that's business for you in the end.
That is.
Anyway, let's progress a little bit. Because I think we wanted to show some customer video,
example.
Right? Do you ever do grocery shopping at Albert Heijn?
Yes, I do. And actually more than ever, since all the restaurants are closed. So
exactly. And
they are benefiting from me.
And I think that's not just you, right? A lot of people are doing their grocery shopping at the Albert Heijn these days, and simply because they can't go out for dinner anymore, at least. And I love one example of Ahold in this case. That's the mother company of Albert Heijn, who's basically using Microsoft technology as well to predict what customers will be buying. And we've got a little 2-minute video to show you. Let's roll the video.
Can an algorithm help you bake a cake? For customers of Dutch grocery retailer Albert Heijn, the answer is yes. The company is harnessing Microsoft technology to create rich, hyper-personalized shopping experiences.
We are for a long time already filling grocery stores, delivering groceries to the customer. So we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of data available. By going to the cloud, we unlock the new opportunities to actually make value of our data.
We have 10 million customers every week, and they shop at Albert Heijn online 24/7. So we really need a solution that can serve our customers anywhere, anytime. An example is Predict My List. Because we know what you buy online and we know what you buy offline, we can make a prediction for you what you will probably need next time in your shopping basket. And this way we can really offer you a very easy shopping experience from end to end.
We are currently testing in 4 stores a concept called Tap to Go. And basically the summary is that with a card or your phone, you walk into the store, tap the shelf, grab your product and just go. So basically we reduced the shopping journey from 3-4 minutes to 20 seconds. The next step I think is a very nice one, because with all the data we gather from people tapping the shelf, we can start helping them much better. Our dream is to add hyper-personalization, so real-time offers based on your contextual situation at that moment. And you can imagine many use cases we can implement to make people more happy, to have a better life in the morning, in the afternoon and in the evening.
We were looking for an open platform that could enable us quickly with new technology and the emerging technologies. Also that we could adopt and service in open source tools, like for example VMs on Linux next to Windows. And that is why we chose for Microsoft Azure. So what we started here has now also been adopted in the wider Ahold Delhaize group. And that makes it possible to share algorithms over the globe and to make each other better. By adopting and implementing this data analytical platform in the cloud, I think we made a giant leap. So we are now really ready for the future.
So
All
I
right.
think the main conclusion that we can draw here is that an algorithm can indeed bake a cake, right?
Or myself as well.
You can do too, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's really interesting to see this reference case from Ahold Delhaize, right? You saw how many services they use from Azure to really innovate with their own built solutions. And I think that's a perfect example of tech intensity. First of all, they adopted the technology, and then second of all, they have been building on the capabilities to work with that. And in terms of building with technologies, these are the top 5 technologies what we see that organizations are investing in. So this research has been conducted in December, so a couple of months ago, and we see what technologies we have the top 5 in here. So machine learning, IoT, AI, blockchain, and mixed reality. And those are quite some new technologies, but also they require other skills than we are used to. And that is very interesting because that requires the upskilling or reskilling even from some of the employees. And I think a good example is the next one, where you can elaborate a bit on like how some of those top 5 technologies are being used, Jeff.
Yeah, and I particularly like this example, right? Maybe you, Patrick, a question to you, right? When was the last time you bought a car? I take it you're a Renault person, right?
Yeah, well, it's 3 years ago. Yeah.
3 years ago. But did you feel at that time that this was kind of a blind trust model? Were you sure about what was going to roll off the conveyor belt when you were selecting the features, the model?
No, you select the features, and then you hope they come together in one nice model, and that your car looks nice when it's on the driveway. Yeah.
And I think a lot of you will probably share the same type of experiences, right? I remember me personally, I was buying a Renault, or not a Renault, but
not
a
Volvo,
Volvo in this case, about five years ago. And the dealership basically, told me or encouraged me to select, of course, a dark gray car. It was, of course, I had to get the leather seat. Well, actually, I had to get a couple of other options.
Full
right?
options.
I'm sorry, yeah, full options, of course. And it all sounded good at that time, but still, right? I was walking out of that dealership, and I was like, what did I buy exactly, right? I had no 3D visualization or representation of what it was that I just bought, and it's a pretty expensive undertaking, right?
And did they surprise you when they took off the blanket in the dealership?
Well, the revelation was it was okay, but I must admit, right? I bought a pretty cool car, but I think at the exact same time, my same brother and sister-in-law were buying the same car. All 3 of us were actually buying a Volvo V40, and I must admit that their cars were way cooler than mine.
Are you sure you want to say this on camera?
Yeah, I'm sure I want to say this on camera, and in the meantime I already got a new one. But nevertheless, right, especially my sister-in-law, she bought a pearl white edition, armed with a full body kit. The thing was really, really cool, and I felt a bit disappointed when she was driving by, showing off her new car, and I was like, hey, I just bought a new car and hers is much gooder than mine. But anyway, just wanted to share some personal
But she was
experience.
probably using the website or technologies to find a great car, and she came home with a nicer car than you did,
exactly.
using
So
all technologies in the showroom.
So
Maybe.
exactly, so that's exactly the thing. Her research was way better than mine. I don't think she even set foot in the dealership. She just selected all of the options from the websites, and she probably got the most economic option, but also the much fancier one. Anyway, I love this particular example because it shows how basically Volvo is using our cloud, but also our HoloLens, our mixed reality technology that you were referring to enhance that shopping experience. And now it has turned from what we call a blind trust model to something that, well, you can't really touch it yet, but you can get really close.
You can
and
visualize
see everything that you're selecting. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. As you see, it's working with a HoloLens, but still, defining your own model and choosing all the features on it, colors even. So that's interesting, but also requires new skills because it's not click and play. It's really work with the HoloLens to do that. And that comes to the next topic. Tech intensity requires new skills, right? Innovation requires new skills, and in that sense, tech intensity as well. So to have one example of that is the evolution of IT roles in this era, right? Where you see on the left side the commoditized role examples, and on the right side the emerging roles for the cloud. And as you can see, I highlighted some of the roles, but you see it's not a one-on-one transition actually from going to the old world or on-premise world to the cloud world. For example, DevOps, architect, or data science is coming up more often than previously. So that is already interesting that those are some of the roles we see more emphasis on. That also requires a new mindset, as you can see, right? It's not per se, well, if you're an on-premise administrator, it's way different working in the cloud than working on-premise. So, for example, investing in hardware for many years is now way different than a pay-as-you-go model, which we discussed earlier from Azure. So that cloud mindset is also interesting, and in Microsoft we call it the going from a know-it-all to a learn-it-all. So beforehand, maybe there was one person, the go-to guy who knew everything. And in terms of cloud, especially when you see how broad the Azure platform is, you cannot know it all. And you have to work together. You have to learn continuously. You have to learn from others in that sense, and also keep on learning. And that makes it interesting in these times, right? That the roles are really evolving.
How many new services are added every quarter? A lot, I think.
Yeah,
Tens
like
of
weekly,
services.
monthly, there are new features or products or additions. Yeah.
So you have to keep learning because it's not a technology that stays the same for 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, I think it really depends on the way that you count, right? What do you really call a product and a service, right? Some things might just be referred to as a feature instead of a service itself. And I think, like I was saying, it's over 200 different services that we bring to market through our Azure platform. I know last week built a couple of new features and services were also added or announced generally available. And like Stephanie was already saying, it's too much even to comprehend, right? I love this picture because it doesn't just show the evolution of one of the old IT roles to the new world, but it also shows the many different people are actually working with our platform, right? Ranging from the people who do a lot of the admin stuff and the engineering stuff to architects, but also to data scientists and data engineers even.
Yeah, exactly. But indeed, how are we going to do that today? Because COVID-19 had quite some impact, and quite is an understatement, obviously, in this era. So what do we see, or what does research foresees in terms of jobs?
Yeah, and I think here it's important to note, right, that back in 2017, McKinsey was already projecting that I think it was 375 million, give or take, people within our working population will probably have to acquire new skills.
Yeah.
For them, basically, well, not to be made redundant by the year. I think they were referring to 2030.
Yeah, 30.
Just because of automation and technologies like artificial intelligence. And I'd say, you know, the COVID-19 crisis will probably just accelerate that motion, right? Just as an example, I have a mall just next to my house, and they basically closed doors, right? Overnight, from one day to the other, the shops had to close.
Yeah.
And I think in Europe right now, the latest research by McKinsey, I think it was just published weeks ago, showed that 13% of people within Europe, so that's quite significant, are now, because of COVID-19, considering to do online purchases and visit their e-tailers website for the first time. So that's all people basically turning from the say old-fashioned brick and mortar shopping experiences, turning to the websites of your retailers. So that's definitely gonna require a lot of new skills, right? Maybe you can reskill some of those employees that you already have in your shops, or maybe you have to attract new talent.
Yeah, and it's also some of the jobs, given the coronavirus pandemic, will not exist anymore. Or some of the new jobs are going to exist or are coming up. Right. So, for example, I've already learned last week in the Financial Times that the social distance ambassador is a new job function that people are searching for. Like, how can I become such a person? Yeah. So that is interesting, actually, that it really changes.
A job that we hadn't heard of 3 months ago?
3 months ago,
okay.
No.
Where can I apply and how much does it pay, right?
And how many more jobs are there still to come?
Talking about reskilling, right? Yeah. And that's interesting. So to prepare for the new normal, which is coming up, we really need to be flexible in learning, but also practical. Like, what do we need to learn now? For example, when your organization is working with teams all of a sudden, but also how can you be strategic in practicalities? What do we need to learn for the future? So it's really interesting how organizations can recover from that, but also how they can shape their new normal actually with new skills. So to talk a bit about onboarding and development findings, what we see and what Patrick was mentioning also in the beginning is that most companies lack a formal training department. So how to overcome, right? How to go to the new normal. Then this is an interesting one when 77% doesn't have an internal training department. And also, is there enough time allocated for employees to study? So if you see on this slide, that isn't. So that is very interesting. We see, given the coronavirus pandemic, that there is way more time for studying, even for self-studying, and also for the training program rerun collectively. So that is also an interesting one.
So just a quick question. But if those organizations that you too basically talk to every day, right, do not have a formal training department, as you call it. So who is it that you would talk to? What role within an organization would normally address the topic of learning if you haven't formalized that yet?
It's becoming more and more a strategic topic. So you're talking about the decision makers, talking with the decision makers, talking with CIOs, and more to make sure that the IT strategy is more aligned with the company strategy. And after that, the learning consultants or the learning officers, they are involved in the programs as well. But it's a big, a wide variety of people we're talking with. But it's becoming more and more strategic.
Yeah. And that's also because we need to know what the gaps are for the future skills where the strategy is going towards, versus what do we have in-house currently. Yeah. So yeah, here you see it as well. Sometimes there is a strategy, or most of the time there is a strategy, but also companies are focusing more on self-learning. So if we have a look in what there isn't at the moment, how can we overcome that in that sense? So one of the things McKinsey is mentioning is we should pursue a broad reskilling or skilling agenda in general, right? We need to have the digital expertise, we need to accelerate that and have them adapt the skills as well which are needed. And the second point is receive regular training. Just what we saw on the first slide, there isn't enough time for employees to train. Yes, that should be incorporated, so to say, in their time. And we see that now, given the COVID-19, especially given COVID-19, people cannot always work from home because maybe the modern workplace isn't being integrated yet in the organization, but they do or they can study from home. So yeah, the key message actually, especially given these times, is how resilient is your learning ecosystem. So what is currently your learning ecosystem? What is your learning culture? But how can you make that resilient? And in that sense, we talk a lot with customers, especially with the Technical Skills for Business program. We help them skilling. Yep. We work collectively as Microsoft with learning partners like the LLPA members to train them in Azure. And some of the customers, one of the customers is here, BP. And as you can see here, they did focus really on full skill reskilling for all of their employees everywhere. Well, that is quite a massive approach, right? So that obviously means that there is some strategic buy-in, there is management involvement, and also probably a whole change approach in it. But we also see companies who just want to start small or just have an innovative department, and they would like to reskill or just train or acquire new skills in that sense.
Yeah, I love the example of BP here, right? Because it takes a lot of leadership. So you were talking about the BDMs that you're engaging with. So it does take a lot of leadership to do this type of full skill reskilling as you were talking about it, right? This is probably going to be a massive undertaking, but at some stage or at some point in time, BP has probably realized that in order to reach their business objectives, they have to reskill some of their employees. This is a very powerful example.
They also need to invest actually in what are the gaps in the capabilities of the employees. And that is sometimes a struggle for organizations. It could be complex. And that's why Microsoft is focusing also more on the research behind it. Like what does Microsoft foresee as an Azure administrator? What does an Azure administrator do in the cloud? What are the skills needed? So here you see an example of this, how this works. We are focusing more on role-specific training. Instead of years ago, we are focusing on product training, learning features, and now we study like what is an Azure administrator. So you see we have a whole job task analysis here, conducted research, and from that, from internal and external resources, we develop the best training, and that means that the training and exams are focusing on hands-on or focusing on doing labs, for example, or specific skills which are needed when you are a developer. It's not so feature-based anymore as we had in the past.
So just, is this like a very scientific undertaking? Does it take a lot of time to perform such a job task analysis and construct these type of learning paths? How long would that normally take?
Yeah, it does take some time, right? There are several teams always working on the newest exams. So you will see that in the next slides as well. We have more upcoming exams as well. So they are continuously looking into that. And also because our exams are continuously being updated as well. Because the technology is updating, then also the exams need to be updated. So there are teams working on this massively, I would say, and it's quite an exercise to do. Yeah.
So you're basically saying since these exams get updated every time, it kind of gets to a continuous process, right? So people will be encouraged to keep on learning, but to
keep certified and to keep their certifications up to date. Also because the jobs evolve. The jobs don't stay the same, job roles don't stay the same. So the exams and the courseware, they need to follow the job roles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this is one of the key takeaways from the Technical Skills for Business program that we run collectively. And you see we focus on the left side on the skills in phases. Fundamentals, first of all, could be interesting for everyone, including management. Like how can you also promote or how can you talk the same language in terms of technology and cloud. Then you see the role-based training. So that was what I was mentioning before, from administrator to data science. And specialty could be another workload where there's not a certificate for example. And where we are working on our skilling plans, so in that we have events, for example, which we host. Usually those were in person. Now they're mostly digital or digitalized, just like this one. We focus also on digital skilling, so self-learning. Microsoft Learn has our own website where you can study for free, and also the LLPA has their Skills Academy, it's called currently.
White-labeled platform.
Yeah, a white-labeled platform where you can study yourself as well. We also focus on instructor-led training. Was in person, currently everything is virtually. And certifications, like how can you move towards a certain path. And this is the overview of at least the program we run, but also what we have in terms of Azure training. You see there are some trainings beta and there are some more upcoming, but this is the current scope we have. So you see it's a broad variety of going from apps and infra to data and AI and several levels as well.
Yeah, and I like the breadth of the offering, right? Yeah. So like you're saying, it ranges from basic, or I'm saying basic, but it ranges from admin type of roles to data science. Love, by the way, the fact that the Azure Fundamentals, I think it's a course and also an exam that was introduced not so long ago. I think it's about a year and a half, give or take, that it was introduced, and it offers pretty basic level information of what Microsoft Azure has to offer. In terms of study, I think it's about a 10-hour investment,
one day,
right? One day.
One day training, 10 hours self-study.
Yeah,
exactly. And so if you're new to Azure, I'd say it will be recommended for a technical role, but even
it's
at
also
Microsoft,
good for sales roles.
At Microsoft, people in sales roles are encouraged to take the exam. Yeah. I'd say if you want to get familiar with Azure, explore some basic cloud concepts, want to enhance your understanding of what a IaaS versus a PaaS versus a SaaS delivery model entails, I would definitely encourage you to look in the academy that Patrick was just talking about.
It's available for free.
Or look at Microsoft.com/learn and explore the learning path. So you will love the breadth of the Azure portfolio, of course. But hey, let's not forget about our friends on the.
We always have more
on the Microsoft 365 and the business application side, right? And like I said, and we've mentioned it before, a lot of Teams environments being deployed these days. But of course, the deployment and end user training is one thing. Then I would say, this is normally first in the queue, but now second up is, hey, how do we administer for that environment correctly, right?
Exactly.
How do we make sure that that environment is kept safe and
secure
compliant?
enough.
So there's a bunch of Microsoft 365 related trainings that we also offer, and I love all the stuff we've mentioned it before that we're doing on the Dynamics and on the Power Platform site. Power Platform App Maker, that'll even let people like you and me develop our own apps. How cool is that?
And that's what I like about this matrix, that there is fundamentals courses on every solution area. So you can get to know all the technologies just in a well, also for people like me doing the fundamentals course to see how everything works and what's in market. Yeah.
And from then you can always learn, right? Keep learning. That is something what we would like to say. So yeah, I hope you at least understand the importance of skilling, and please go ahead if you would like to share anything else to close off.
I would say the main, I hope that your main takeaway from this presentation is that, creating a skilling plan like Stephanie showed, it isn't a very scientific process, right? It does take a rigor job task analysis that should be aligned with your company objectives, but hey, if you framed your objectives well and you've done the rigor on your job task analysis, then you can basically start creating your skilling plan, and you can have your organization start learning today. So would definitely encourage you either to work with the LLPA members, and I think you've got a nice little overview laid up in the deck that shows what the names of each of those LLPA members. So engage with your local LLPA member, or engage with someone from Microsoft to help you create that skilling plan and get started right away.
Exactly. And also, think about or help building your learning culture, right? What we mentioned before, make it resilient. So you can have a look at those 3 bullets, how you can do that as well. But keep in mind, indeed, to make it a resilient one. Yeah, so we would like to close off what Satya Nadella is, why this vision is in Microsoft, or why these investments are from Microsoft, is because of our mission to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. And in that sense, empowerment is really in terms of skilling, right? So parallel investment in skills development. So yeah, thank you for having us today. And looking forward to your questions.
Great story, great examples. And there are some questions from the viewers. And one of them is, well, that's an interesting one, maybe for you, Stephanie. It's from Relekane. I'm not sure if I pronounce it right. But primary and secondary schools are left behind in terms of technology development and integration. And where do you think schools should start to introduce computer integration education?
Where or when?
Where? So what should schools, as I interpret it, what should schools do now? What can they start with?
So one really good and fun part is coding for kids. I used to be a guest teacher as well at schools, where you can help children start with coding. It's very comprehensive and it's very easy. Instead of really typing code as you might imagine it is, it's really working with blocks of codes. Like, how can you move one person to another corner? So Minecraft is, for example, one interesting thing to start. And I think the schools are now investigating what they can do given the COVID-19 situation. How can they virtually give some lectures to primary education? So I think there's enough coming as well.
Enough coming, Okay. And there's another question from Simona. Is the training similar to internal employees and external customers, and what are the differences? Not sure if I understand the question correctly, but I think there's no difference. I think what you do internally, you can also do for your customers. And of course, if you performed or if you deliver training for your customers, you need to make sure that your own people are skilled as well, of course. So I don't think there is a lot of differences. And like we touched a little bit the Skills Academy portals. We have 185 white labeled Skills Academy portals in the market. And we have customers who use it for their internal skilling, but also for their customers to make sure that they can service their customers. So, and if you need more information on that, that's all available on our website, the LLPA.com, but it will be also in the slide deck. The URL.
And maybe I can elaborate a bit on it because we as Microsofties had to study as well a lot. We started already before we evangelizing skilling. So that means mandatory training for managers. Well, not everybody was even fond of that.
But impressive results I also heard from salespeople getting really associate data level.
So we started all off with Azure Fundamentals, including management. And now some of the sales positions need to study as well for administrator, for example.
Yeah.
So the training is the same for Microsoft employees or internal employees as well as for
good
customers. Because we need to evangelize, we need to know what we talk about, and we need to help other customers, embrace it.
Thank you. And Relikana, he or she, I don't know, sorry, she is based in South Africa. And what I can do, we have a member in South Africa, CTU. I think it's good if they follow up with you to see what your exact question about this primary, secondary school education is.
Yeah.
And I think it's good if they can advise you then on that. So we will get in touch with you.
Could be.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
It was a
sure.
great
Thank you,
story.
Patrick.
And let me then wrap up this session. We have 1 minute left. But I would like to encourage all of you to fill out the evaluation form. You can scan the QR code. And if you do so, you will be in one box with all the viewers of this session, but also the sessions the next coming weeks, the other 5 sessions. And in the end, at the end of this series, we will have a raffle and we will draw 5 names out of the box, and those 5 names will get a free advanced role-based course, as it was on the slide that Stephanie showed. So I would like to encourage you to fill out the evaluation, but also to view the events in the next coming weeks, because the more you view, the more knowledge you get, of course, but the more chance you have on winning this course. And of course, the recording will also be made available for you after this session.
Including the slides, right?
Including, including the slide. I'm not sure about the slides, but you will see that in your
Oh,
mailbox.
yeah, the recording.
But at least the recording will be made available. As Jeffrey said, an overview of all the LLPA members all over the world. Like I said, from Argentina, Australia, from Iceland to South Africa. Check this slide if you want to know what is your local LLPA partner and which can help you with your skilling plan or anything around skilling. They're also available on the website, and of course you can view it in the recording. Which brings me to the last topic, 1 minute over time, but I would like to show you what topic we're going to address next week. Next week, same time, Jussi Roine from Microsoft Finland will talk about how you can accelerate your business even more with some nice examples on bringing your business or your infrastructure to the cloud. So check back again next week. If you scan the QR code, you'll go to the page where you can register for that event, but also for the upcoming the remaining 5 webinars. And we hope to see you again next week and all the other weeks for some great cloud skilling news. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.